अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Before I start my lecture, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Vivekananda Kendra Kanyakumari and Vivekananda Prabodhini Borivali for giving me this opportunity to share this platform with great stalwart from different spectrum. It is also an additional pleasure to deliver this lecture on Kautilya Arthashastra, the universal text, on the occasion of Amruta Mahotsava of the independence of Bharat. My topic, as I mentioned, universal nature of Kautilya Arthashastra. And when we say universal, we all know it very well that universal means that which is done by all people and applicable in all cases, or composed by group of people but applicable in all cases. Arthashastra falls in second category, and to be very precise, it is composed not by a group of people but one single person, and he is Kautilya. Of course, very humbly, he has mentioned all his predecessors and schools of thoughts on this subject. So, this shows that this Arthashastra was not established by Kautilya, but it was well established subject much earlier than Kautilya. Kautilya Arthashastra is a vast treasure of knowledge. As the text mentions that there are around 6,000 sutras, it is difficult to cover all of them in one single lecture. So I chose to speak only on few sutras. Before we move to our topic, I would like to speak on the term Artha. As soon as we say Artha, in modern time, people immediately say, oh, that means economics. Yes, definitely, Arthashastra is economics, but this is just one meaning of the word Artha. There are many other meanings of the word Artha, and very common is meaning of a word. When we say is shabd ka artha kya hai, immediately it means what is the meaning of the word. So Artha has one meaning, and that is the meaning of a word. Artha is considered as hitaparevasai, that which is beneficial. When we associate the word Artha with Purusha, it becomes human pursuit. And there are four human pursuits. They are Dharma Artha, Artha Artha, Kama Artha, and Moksha Artha. So the second pursuit has got Artha two times. The first Artha indicate economics or riches or prosperity, and the second Artha suggests that it is to be acquired. A famous text, Kama Sutra, has also defined the word Artha, and it suggests that Vidya, Bhumi, Hiranya, Pashu, Dhanya, Bhandopaskara, Mitradinam, Arjanam, Arjitasya Vivartanam. So it has mentioned two things as Artha, and that is first is Arjanam, that is acquiring something, Tasya Vivartanam. So expansion of whatever is acquired. Naturally, what is to be acquired? A list of object is given by Kama Sutra, and it starts with Vidya, that is knowledge, Bhumi, land, Hiranya, gold, Pashu, that is animals or cattle, Dhanya, food grains, Bhandobaskara is home appliances or home utensils, and Mitra. Even Kama Sutra also enlisted Vidya in the beginning, because the purpose of Vidya in tradition is something different. Present period Vidya or knowledge or degrees we get just to secure a good job. Definitely, that was one purpose of Vidya, but it is not the only purpose. So, what is the main purpose of Vidya? There are very famous sentences, phrases regarding Vidya, such as Vidya Vinayena Shobhate. Vidya appears beautiful by Vinaya, that is humble nature. So, Vidya is, it is expected that a knowledgeable person should be humble. Or Vidyayamrutam Ashnute, Sa Vidyaya Vimuktaye. Over here, it is expected that the immortality or emancipation is achieved by Vidya. So, when we say immortality or emancipation, it is expected that the elevation of the soul is possible by Vidya. So the purpose of Vidya is to elevate a person, or Shila Vrutta Phala Vidya, where Vrutta, that is source of livelihood, is definitely mentioned, but it comes at later stage. First is Shila, that is good character. Kautilya himself also defined the word Artha, defined the word Vidya, and he has suggested that Vidya Vinaya Hetu Indriya Jaya. So the purpose of Vidya is Indriya Jaya. And Vinaya Hetu, the purpose of Vidya is Vinaya, and by that Indriya Jaya, the control of senses is possible. And by Vinaya, by control of senses, one can discard the internal enemies, right? Like anger, pride, arrogance, all these things are to be discarded. That is how Kautilya has defined the term Vidya. So it shows that the purpose of Vidya is to make a person a thorough gentleman, or in Sanskrit, we can say that a Sajjana or an Arya. That is why Vidya comes in the beginning. Once you get Vidya, once you realize what is right and wrong, then you are allowed to acquire all the other things like Bhumi, Hiranya, etc. In that, Bhandopaskara is also mentioned, as I mentioned, that Bhandopaskara is home appliances or home utensils. So it means every person should work hard to acquire whatever is required in the house. Last is the Mitra. So it is maybe on the individual level or organizational level or on national level. Mitra is very important. A good alliance is very important. And Kama Sutra suggests that all these are to be acquired, and their expansion is also mentioned. So, in totality, acquiring these seven things and their expansion means Artha according to Kama Sutra. Kautilya himself also defined the word artha, and he has stated that Manushyanam Vrittihi Arthaha Manushyavati Bhumi Tirtha Tasyaha Prithivyaha Labhapalanopaya Shastram Arthashastram. So Manushyanam Vrittihi Arthaha. The source of livelihood of human being is artha, and from where do we get that source of livelihood? Then he has stated that Manushyavati Bhumihi iti Artha. So this Artha one can acquire from the earth which is endowed with or which is inhabited by human beings. And hence, Arthashastra is that Shastra, Tasyaha Prithivyaha Labha Palanopaya. So Arthashastra is that Shastra which tells us to acquire the earth and palana and protection of that acquired earth. So, Arthashastra can be considered as the science of politics. Of course, Artha, that is economics, is definitely one part of it, but we'll speak about that Artha later. This text is composed for a particular area, or we can say that for a particular country, and that country is defined by Kautilya, and he has stated that Deshaha Prithvi. Desha is Prithvi. So the entire globe means the country? No. A definite area, a definite landmass is there in front of him, and he has stated that Tasyam, on this earth, Himavat Samudrantaram, Udichinam, Yojana Sahasra Parimanam, Tiryak Chakravarti Kshetram. So from the northern side, which starts with Himalaya, from Himalaya to the ocean, the landmass which stretched between Himalaya to ocean, and it has got Yojana Sahasra Parimana. Basically, this Yojana Sahasra is to show the vastness of land, but it is Tiryaka, which is oblique in nature. That particular area or that particular landmass is called as Desha, and this Desha is the place of sovereignty. So, a particular stretch of land is there in front of Kautilya, and the concept of Desha is defined by him in this way. And but only landmass can't be the country, and hence Kautilya has given the important elements or the prakritis of the nation, and there are seven. Swamya Matya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani Prakritaya. That is how he has mentioned. So Swami Of course, in kingship, that time kingship was the only governing body, so ruler was the main. Then Amatya, the ministers, Janapada, the territory and people, Durga, the fort, Kosha, here comes the treasure, and Danda, the army, and last is Mitra, that is good alliance, which we have seen in Kama Sutra also. So Kautilya has mentioned about good alliance as well. Kamandaka, who considers himself as the disciple of Kautilya and composed Kamandakiya Nitisar, has mentioned these seven elements, but he has added one line to give a clear picture of these seven elements or the importance of these seven elements. And he has stated that Swamya Matyascha Rashtrancha Durgam Kosho Balam Surud Parasparopakaramidam Saptangam Rashtramuchati. So instead of Janapada, he has mentioned Rashtra, and instead of Mitra, he has mentioned Surud. But the meaning of both the word same. And then the second line is important, that he has mentioned that Paraspara Upakaramidam, when they go hand in hand, when there is cooperation and coordination between all these elements, then only that country, that is called as country. So for a country, only landmass is not sufficient. All the elements should go hand in hand. So then only that country prosper. That means country is the meaning of that, it prosper only after that. If the elements are not going hand in hand, moving hand in hand, naturally the chaotic condition will take place. So they must go hand in hand. That is how it is explained by Kamandaka. Now, Kautilya Arthashastra is basically a text of governance. It has got 15 books, 180 sections, and 150 chapters, and around 6,000 sutras. Naturally, like management book, systematic classification and categorization, we can see everywhere in every topic. Different ideas of modern management concepts like system theory, retention theory, wage management, land, van, man, all these things are observed in Kautilya Arthashastra. But the entire text is divided into two parts, that is Tantra and Avapa. Tantra deals with the internal system or internal administration and internal security of a country. Or we can say that in perfect internal administration gives internal security. That is why Kith has stated that there was intensive study of a particular aspect of government and of relations between states. So, Tantra deals with internal administration, while Avapa deals with foreign policy. Arthashastra's foreign policy is mainly based on war strategy. I prefer to speak on Tantra for today's lecture. In the beginning of the text, Kautilya has mentioned the preamble of the text or the purpose of kingship. And he has stated that alabdha labhartha, labdha parirakshani, rakshita vivardhani, vruddhasya tirthe pratipadani cha. So, alabdha labhartha, we have already seen that acquisition of that which is not acquired. If the prithvi, if the land is not there in the hand, the first and foremost duty of a king is to acquire that land. After that, labdha parirakshani, the preservation of whatever is possessed, rakshita vivardhani, augmentation or expansion of the preserved, and vruddhasya tirthe pratipadani cha. Even in our day-to-day life, we follow these sutras because throughout our life, we take efforts to acquire that which is not acquired. Then we try to protect it, we try to grow, we try to augment it or expand it. Last part is most important, and that is Vruddhasya Tirthe Pratipadanicha. This word Tirtha is very important. Tirtha is very revered person. So Kautilya says that it is the duty of a king to return it or to give it to deserving people. So, bestowal of the things, whatever awards, prizes, exemptions you give, it should be tirthe, deserving person only. And that is why tirtha word is used. This entire concept of acquiring and returning is based on the concept of bhog, not on bhoga, but on tyaga. The kingship in India is on tyaga and not bhoga. Tyaga is to give away and not bhoga for self enjoyment. This idea is explained in a very poetic manner by Kalidas in Raghuvamsha. And for that, he has used the simile of water cycle. He has mentioned that Prajanam eva bhutyartham satabhyo balimagrahit. Sa means King Raghu. Raghu, King Rama belongs to Raghu race. Rather, we can say that Raghu is the first person in this dynasty where King Rama born, and Sa means that Raghu who used to collect taxes. Rather, it was a privilege of a king to collect taxes, and that is why he was always addressed as, or different titles like Shadbhaga Bali book were given to the king. And following to that, King Raghu also used to collect taxes, Bhutyartham, for the prosperity of his subject only. And then, like the water cycle, as the sun collects water from the ocean to return it in thousand times, similarly, he used to return it to his subject. So that is how one important sutra of Rajaniti is mentioned in poetic manner by using water cycle, simile of water cycle by Kalidasa. Now in kingship, uh, always basically internal administration begins with deserving king or deserving leadership, we can say that in modern period, because the king is very influential person and he is always remained a charismatic leader. It is his leadership which makes the country prosper or adverse. Waxing or waning of the country is depend upon king only. But this rule, as I mentioned, is applicable in any organization, however it is small. In modern period, we can call it as leader or boss or CEO, but leadership is very important and it's so influential that Kautilya has mentioned it in this way. Rajanam uttitam anuttishtante bhrutyaha pramadyam anupramadyanti karmani cha asya bhakshayanti. Rajanam uttitam anuttishtante bhrityaha. When the king is active, the servants become active. Pramadyam anupramadyanti. And if he makes mistake, naturally his followers also will make mistake. Karmani cha asya bhakshayanti. And consumes his work. Means they destroy the complete system and the kingdom perishes. So it depends on king how active he is. Another sutra is given by Kautilya where he says that Sayat Shilaha Tat Shilaha Prakrutayaha Bhavanti. Whatever character he has, the same character his subjects have. Utthane pramadecha tadayatatva, being dependent on him in the matter of energetic activity and remissness, because the king is in the place of their head. Tat kutasthaniyo hi swamiti. King is at the pinnacle, so they follow the same nature, same character of a king. Of course, it is expected that king should behave with his subject like a father. Nivritta pariharan pita iva anugrunya or sarvatra chaupatan pita iva anugrunya. At both places, the word pita, like as father, is used. But it doesn't mean that he should always be a soft hearted. He has complete authority to use danda, the coercive power of the state, but it is expected that he should use it impartially. For the achievement of preamble or administration is essential, and for that, only king is not sufficient. Teamwork we speak too much about teamwork in modern period. The concept of that teamwork is expressed by Kautilya in Arthashastra as Sahaya Sadhyam Rajyatvam Chakram Ekam Na Vartate. As a chariot does not move with one single wheel, similarly, Purvita Sachivan Tasmat Tesham Cha Shruniyan Matam. King should appoint ministers, and it is not only to appoint them, but he must pay attention towards their mata, towards their opinion. So then only that kingdom or that nation move fast. Same idea is reflected in Manusmriti. Here he says that in Manusmriti 7th chapter, which is fully based on Rajadharma. It is titled as Rajadharma, and there Manu has mentioned that apiyat sukaram karma tadapi ekena dushkaram visheshataha asahayena kim tu rajyam mahodayam. However easy the task is, it is difficult to accomplish it single handedly. How can kingdom be governed by him who is helpless? Of course, Kautilya is aware that when a person who is going to be a amatya or a minister, he should be of good character. Rather, many qualities of a person, of a deserving minister, are given by Kautilya. And it is not only the qualities, but he has also suggested upadha, that is secret test, before selecting that person and appointing him as a minister. And when he passes those upadhas, then also Kautilya says that even after all these good qualities, and if he passes the secret test, then also a capacity of a person is judged only when he starts working. And hence he has stated that karya samarthyadhi purusha samarthyam kalpyate. Uh, we see the structure in modern management. We have centralized or decentralized structure. In kingship, it is definitely a centralized structure: king, then the matyas or the ministers, mantri, then here again advisor, we can say that, and adhyaksha. Of course, there is little ambiguity, I must mention, between amatya and mantri. Sometimes they both are on equal level, sometimes amatya is more important, but overall amatya is remain more important. So I have made this chart: king, then Amatya, then Mantri, then Adhyaksha, that is, they are the departmental heads, then they appoint different servants, and this is how the system works. Internal security is defined as a state or condition where a nation's most cherished values and beliefs, its way of life, its institutions of governance, and its unity, welfare, and well being as a nation and of people are permanently protected and continuously enhanced. In Arthashastra, we get this idea very well. A well trained king, along with the minister, can take care of the internal administration. Internal security is strengthened by internal administration. Um, this entire concept of internal security is explained in two words in Arthashastra, or rather in Sanskrit, and they are yoga and kshema, but they are always paired together. Yoga Kshemam Vahamyam, which is very famous sentence from Bhagavad Gita. But Kautilya he tries to give the definition of each and every word which he is using. So yoga means successful accomplishment of an object, and kshema is undisturbed enjoyment of that object. And how this yoga and kshema can be achieved? Kautilya has stated that Shama Vyayamau Yoga Kshema Yoho Yonihi. Peace and activity constitute the source of acquisition and security. Karma Rambhana Yoga Radhano Vyayama. So when the word Vyayama is given, immediately he defines the term Vyayama, and he has stated that Karma Rambhana Yoga Aradhanaha Vyayamaha. So activity is that which brings about the accomplishment of works undertaken. And then karma phala upabhoganam ksemaradhanah shamaha. And peace is that which brings about security of enjoyment of the fruits of work. So yoga kshema is basically acquiring something and enjoying whatever is acquired undisturbed, peacefully. That is the idea of yoga kshema. For this yoga kshema, certain activities are suggested by Kautilya, and they are akara, karmanta. Akara is mines, karmanta is factories, dravya, hasti vana. The word vana goes with both the words dravya vana, hasti vana. So produce forest, elephant forest, then Vanikpat Vraja is cattle herds, Vanikpatha trade routes. Then he has also suggested that Vari Sthala Patha Panya Pattanani cha Niveshaye. King should establish water routes, land routes, and ports. So these routes are necessary for trade, and it is the duty of a king to establish all these routes because trade only is going to make the kingdom prosper. Then sahodakam aharyodakam va setum bandhayet. So he has also mentioned that he should cause irrigation work to be built with natural water sources or with water to be brought in from elsewhere. So self relianceness on water is very important because after all Bharata was agricultural country and naturally water is very important. So the irrigation facilities are to be provided by king. This complete idea of these activities are termed as Ayasharira. Many technical words are used by Kautilya, and he has stated that Ayasharira, that is source of revenue, income, and under that all these things are coming. When we say Ayasharira, naturally the word Artha is there now. Artha is, we have seen that economics, prosperity, and Kautilya is of course aware about that, about the importance of treasure, and he has stated that Artha eva pradhanaha iti Kautilyaha. So material well-being alone is supreme. That is how he has stated. Arthamulau hi dharma kamau iti. Because spiritual goods and sensual pleasures depend on material well-being. Poshapurvaha sarvarambaha. So all the activities are dependent on treasury, and hence he asked king to take care of that kosha. Tasmat purvam kosham aveksheta. Uh, we have already seen that in the preamble, Kautilya has suggested to return it to the suitable or deserving people. Apart from that, many favors and exemptions are also mentioned by Kautilya, but he has warned the king that king should grant to them. Them means, of course, the subject favors and exemptions which would cause an increase in the treasury and avoid such donations which would cause loss to the country. For a king with small treasury swallows up the country people. He is aware about the situation if the treasury gets empty. Because after all, when king is giving favors or exemptions, subjects enjoy that, and Kautilya is aware about the nature of subject that they will be happy when king is giving free, but once the kosha gets empty and if more taxes are levied by the king, that same subjects will become angry against the king, and hence he has warned that he should not cause the treasury to get empty only because of favors and exemptions. That time banking system was not there. Kautilya was aware that whatever perfect administration is taking place, but natural calamities are going to fall. And to face those calamities, certain treasury is to be preserved. And for that, he has mentioned that Janapadante, on the outskirts of the country, Dhruvanidhim, Apad Artham, Abhityaktaihi Karayet. Dhruvanidhi, that is a permanent treasure, apadartham, to face the calamity. Abhityaktaihi karayet. Abhityaktaihi karayet is very important word used by Kautilya, and he has suggested that this nidhi, this treasury, is to be laid by persons condemned to death, who has received the death punishment. So if they will make this treasury, they will keep the money or wealth at that particular safe place, and after that soon they will get their death punishment, so nobody will come to know about it, and then that treasury will be safe. Then complete 5.2 fifth adhikarana and second chapter in that koshabhisamharana is nothing but about refilling of the treasure. In that many suggestions are given by Kautilya that when the treasury gets empty, how to levy extra taxes, how to explain, give the justification of these extra taxes, and even after that, if the treasury is not getting fulfilled, then Kautilya has suggested some occult practices as well. But he always asked the king to take care of the treasury. We have seen that in the first chapter, appointment of ministers are given, and before appointing them, many qualities of the ministers or mantris, and the would-be mantri or minister should pass some secret test. All these precautions are taken by Kautilya, but even after that, Kautilya is aware of the human nature, human psyche, and that is why he has mentioned that karma sucha esham nityam pariksham karayet. Because uh, once they start working, it's human nature that they may commit frauds. And in Yoga Kshema, the Kantakas, the criminals in the society, will not allow subjects to enjoy whatever is acquired by them. And for that, suppression of criminal is very much important. And in the list of Kantaka, it is not only criminals, but the bureaucrats, government officials are also mentioned by Kautilya. Of course, traders and merchants are also included in the list. And that is why this sutra is there. So he has stated that he, means the king, should constantly hold an inspection of their work. Men, being inconstant in their minds, he should do this inspection. For men, being of a nature similar to that of horse, change when employed in works. And I was a bit surprised to see this comparison with horse, the fecal nature of a man with horse, because in Sanskrit, there are 10 objects mentioned which are very fecal in nature. Rather, a very famous shloka is there about the fecal nature of these 10 objects, and they are ma, manu, madhupo, megho, madhyapo, markato, marut, makshika, matkuno, matsyo, makara, dasha, chanchalaha. All the makaras, all the 10 makaras are very fecal in nature, and they are ma, that is goddess Lakshmi, manaha, mind, Madhupaha is bumblebee, Megha, cloud, Madhyapa, a drunkard, Markata, a monkey, Marut, wind, Makshika, housefly, Matkuna, bedbug, Matsya is fish. So in this list, there is no mention of horse, and that is why I was a bit surprised. And then I started searching for it. I got the answer of this in Chinese zodiac sign. A person with the zodiac sign of horse in China is considered very active. Such people are passionate about travel and termed as wanderers. Due to the impulsive nature like horse, they make things difficult from time to time. And I think because of this quality of a person, he is compared with horse by Kautilya. Okay, okay. There are 40 types of frauds are mentioned by Kautilya. Tesham haranopayaha chatvarimshat. So how money can be taken away by different officers is mentioned by Kautilya in a very poetic manner. This fraud, the concept of fraud in a poetic manner, explained by Kautilya. And he has stated that Yathahi anasvadaitum na shakyam jibha talastham madhuva visham va arthastatha hi arthacharena radnyaha swalpaha api anasvadaitum na shakyaha. Just as honey or poison placed on tongue, not possible to remain without taste, similarly, it is not possible that a person dealing with the money, however small, will not test that money. In another verse, he has stated that Matsya yathanta salile charantaha jnatum na shakya salilam bibantaha yuktas tatha karya vidhau niyukta jnatum na shakya dhanamadadanaha. It is difficult to understand when the fish in the water drinks it. Similarly, it is difficult to understand when the officers will swallow money. For this fraudulent nature of man, strict surveillance through spies is suggested by Kautilya. He also suggests to honor loyal officers openly so that they will be the example for other people. He has classified the fraudulent people into three. They are Mulahara. Mulahara is that who amasses wealth in unjust way, the property inherited from the father or the forefather. Tadatvika is that type of person who immediately swallows whatever he produces. Kadarya is a miserable person. He amasses wealth by putting his dependents and himself to suffering because he does not allow other people to enjoy, neither he enjoys. So that is why he is considered as Kadarya. This is how the fraudulent people are classified by Kautilya. Very important topic of infiltration. We are facing this problem every day, and that was discussed by Kautilya. But this concept of infiltration is nicely mentioned in Open Secret India's Intelligence Unveiled by Malay Krishnadhar, the joint director, ex joint director of IB. And he has stated that India has not been able to keep track of its own citizens. The faulty system allows unhindered entry of alien nationals from neighboring countries. They even violate the rights of the natural citizens. Now, let us see how Kautilya speaks about this topic. Kautilya has stated that Vanaprasthat anyaha pravrajita bhavaha sajatat anyaha sanghaha samutthaikat anyaha samayanubandhaha va na asya janapadam upanivishet. Vanaprasthat anyaha, an ascetic sects other than the forest hermits, pravrajita bhavaha sajatat anyaha sanghaha, a corporation other than that of those born in the same place, or an association with agreements except one for a joint undertaking shall not settle in his countryside. Here, the Vanaprastha, the concept of Vanaprastha is necessarily to be understood. When we say Vanaprastha, it means by giving away everything, now they has entered in the second last or last hermitage, last ashrama, that is Vanaprastha or Sannyasa. Naturally, for their basic necessities also, they are dependent on the people from the village or the city near their station. If these people are entering or from other country, naturally it will be the additional burden to the village or the city. But it is possible that sometimes these people may be the intruders in the disguise of ascetic sect. So they will be the problem for the society. And here, the verification of antecedent is difficult, and hence Kautilya has mentioned this sutra. For that, to take precaution for their entry, Kautilya suggested that nacha tatra arama viharartha va shalaha syu. Nacha Tatra means on the outskirts of the country, there should not be parks, halls for recreation where they will station and slowly they will enter in the society. न च बहिरिकान् कुर्यात् पुरे राष्ट्रोपघातकान् क्षिपेत् जनपदे च एतान् सर्वान् वा दापयेत् करान्. Kautilya is deadly against of these intruders to enter in. So he has stated that न च बहिरिकान् कुर्यात्. Kshipet, they are to be kshipet, they are to be thrown away from the society. But in any case, if we have to give shelter to them, then Kautilya has suggested that they they should all the taxes should be levied on them and nothing is to be provided free of charge. So this is how the important topic of verification of antecedent is discussed by Kautilya. Uh, we have seen the definition of internal security where the environmental and ecological security is mentioned, and we are get some sutras about it in Arthashastra. Arthashastra says that Ananyam Prithivim Bhungte Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. He enjoys, he means, of course, the king enjoys the earth being devoted to the welfare of all beings. Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. Sarva Bhuta means all living beings. So, kingship is not only to protect human beings, but all the living beings in the country. In another sutra, he has suggested that Sarva Atithi Mrugam Pratyante cha Anyan Mrugavanam Bhumi Vashenava Niveshayet. King should establish on its border or in suitability with land animal park where all animals are welcomed as guests. Here, the word Atithi is very important. In the tradition of Bharat, Atithi is considered very revered person. And when Kautilya is suggesting that the mrugas, the animals, are to be considered as atithi, it means full protection is to be given to these animals by king. So we see the reflections of protection of environment and ecology is also there in Kautilya Arthashastra. Uh, Arthashastra has defined calamities and conspiracies. Calamities are calamities are divine and conspiracies are man-made. As I mentioned, there is always classification of each and every topic. And so in calamities, Kautilya is saying that Manusham Nayapanayau Daivam Ayanayau. So human actions are good policy and bad policy. Daivam Ayanayam. Of, of divine agency or divine agency is good fortune or misfortune. Daiva Manusham hi karma lokam yapayati. The acts of human or divine agency make the world move. Adrushta karitam daivam. When we say daiva means what? That caused by an unseen agency is divine and drushta karitam manusham. Caused by sin agency is human act. तस्मिन् योगक्षेम निष्पत्तिर नयः विपत्तिः अनयाः. In that the coming into being of well-being is good policy. So naya is a good policy and vipattihi anayaha. If it ruins, if good policies are not working properly, naturally it is apanaya, that is bad policy. So when the calamities are mentioned as Daivi, then Kautilya has given 8 calamities. Daivani Ashtau Mahabhayani, Agnihi, Udakam, Vyadhi, Durbhiksham, Mushika, Vyalaha, Sarpa, Rakshansiti. So, which are they? Agni, that is fire, then Udaka, that is flood, Vyadhi, entire world is facing pandemic. So Vyadhi is also discussed by Kautilya, diseases, famine, Mushika is the rats, Vyalaha, wild animals, and Sarpaha, snakes, and Rakshansi, that is evil spirits. All these are considered as calamity, and it is the duty of a king to protect his subjects from these calamities. Of course, it is not the sole responsibility of the king, but subjects should take care of it, and they should avoid certain things so that the calamities may not fall. And if they make mistake in that, then there are punishments suggested by Kautilya. But while dealing with these calamities, certain, just for example, I would like to mention about famine. So in modern times, as we suggest that construction of roads, dams, etc., to be started by the government, exactly on the same line, Kautilya has suggested that at the time of famine, proper distribution of food and all that will take place. But apart from that, king should start such activities. So this shows that each calamity, how to deal with this calamity, is suggested by Kautilya. Uh, Regarding conspiracies, he has mentioned four types of conspiracies. They are Bahyotpatti Abhyantara Pratijapa, that is internal threat initiated internally, Abhyantarotpatti Bahya Pratijapaha, internal threat supported externally, Bahyotpatti Bahya Pratijapaha, external threat supported externally, and Abhyantarotpatti Abhyantara Pratijapa, internal threat supported internally. To keep check on these conspiracies, like modern computer network which have LAN, MAN, WAN system, Kautilya has suggested spy system. A constant surveillance on these people is very important, and the spy system works similarly like LAN, MAN, WAN, and LAN is nothing but local area network. Basically, Kautilya has divided the spy system into two. They are Samstha and Sanchari. Samstha are the establishment, while Sanchari are the roving spy. Under Samstha are the Kapatika, Udasthita, Grahapatika, Vaidehaka, and Tapasa. And roving spies are Satri, Tikshna, Rasada, Bhikshukija. This is a complete topic of lecture, but we'll just move forward. And Kautilya has suggested how they should work. So, as I mentioned, on LAN, that is local area network, here the sutra which says that dividing the countryside into four divisions, the administrator should cause to be entered in a register the number of fields, classifying them as best, middle, and lowest. This is the revenue in grains, cattle, cash, forest produce, labor, and produce in place of tax. So, in short, each and every detail of that small area is to be registered registered by the administrator. Then moving forward, he has suggested that now man is metropolitan area network which covers bigger area. So Kautilya has suggested that Durgeshu Vanijaha Samstha Durgante Siddha Tapasaha Karsho कर्षको दास्थिता राष्ट्रे राष्ट्रान्ते व्रजवासिनः वने वनचराः कार्याः श्रमणाटविकादयः परप्रवृत्तिज्ञानार्थाः शीघ्रचारपरम्परा. In fortified towns, the spy establishment of traders on the outskirts of fortified towns, ascetics, farmers, and apostolate monks in the countryside, and herdsmen on the borders of the country. Forest dwellers like monks, foresters, and others in the forest, a series of spies quick in their work in order to find out news of the enemy. This word Shigra Chara Parampara always reminds me the word paparazzi. Fast information is to be given, which is very important, and for that, at every place, Kautilya's spy system works. On WAN, that is wide area network, on this, not only in the country but outside the country, maybe our enemy or even our friends, there also it is necessary to appoint spies, and hence Kautilya has suggested that evam shatrau cha mitre cha, in enemy or among the friends, madhyamecha, the mediocre one, udasinecha, tesham Tirtheshu Ashtadashasu api. We have seen that the word Tirtha are very revered, and these Tirthas are nothing but all the ministers. And as we have seen that Kautilya is aware of the human psyche and he has stated that human mind is fickle in nature. So once they start working, it is possible that their mind may change, and hence the surveillance through spies is very important. And this is how his spy system works. Uh, While concluding my lecture, once again I would like to go back to kingship. Different type of rules are mentioned by Kautilya, and I would like to speak about the Vairajya type of king. Vairajya is Vigataha Rajyaha. That is how Kautilya has defined, and he has stated that Vairajyam tu Jivataha Parasya Parasya Chidya na etat mama iti manyamanaha akarshayati. Vairajya means, as I said, foreign ruler who has seized the kingdom by force and ousted the legitimate ruler is Vairajya. And when a king does not belong to that nation, he rules with the thought that this country does not belong to me and amasses the wealth of that ruling country, carries it off, or sells it, and when subjects get dissatisfied with it, leaving that country goes away. Uh, I would like to give reference from the book An Era of Darkness by great historian Shashi Tharoor. And he has narrated the opinion of Will Durant's astonishment and indignation when he saw and read about the Britain's conscious and deliberate bleeding of India. The share of Bharat of the world economy during 1700 was around 23%, which was so large that it will be equal to the entire Europe put together. But when British departed from Bharat, it was dropped down to 3%. While giving the reason of this drop, Shashi Tharoor stated that the Britain's rise for 200 years was financed by depredations in India. So it shows that Vairajya is that kingdom or that rule where the king from another country comes and he rules and he literally loot that country, and this should be avoided. Of course, to rule the country or to rule the nation is not the sole responsibility of the king or the ministers. As we have seen that there are seven elements or sapta prakritis and one prakriti janapada as well. So many rules and regulations are given for janapada also. We can consider them as civic duties, and ethically it is the duty of each and every civilian to take care of the national property and also of the environment according to Kautilya. That is why different punishments are given for destroying national property and spoiling social hygiene and cleanliness. It includes even of plucking of flower, leaf, branch, or cutting of trees from public park. Punishments are inflicted for throwing garbage on roads or neighboring compound. So it shows that civic duties are also mentioned by Kautilya. And when all these seven elements come together, then that king, even however small, however feudatory the king is, he will become victorious. And that is why Kautilya has mentioned that Atmavan Swalpa Deshahapi, even with small territory, but if he possessed of best qualities, and Yuktaha Prakriti Sampadaha, with all the excellent qualities of his Prakriti of the seven elements, Nayadnyaha Prithivim Krutsnam, and if he is good in the science of politics, does conquer the entire earth, Jayati eva na hiyate, and never loses. But for this, the role of Janapada is very important, and I would like to conclude my lecture with this sukta from Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda is again considered as the Kshatriya Veda. Many rules of political science are mentioned in Atharva Veda, and we have seen that Arthashastra is not established by Kautilya, but it was established much earlier, and it starts from Vedic period. And Atharva Veda say about the duties of subjects. In Atharva Veda, the land is always considered as mother. Mata bhumihi putroham prithivyaha. This bhumi, of course, now we know that Prithvi or bhumi means the country, is my mother and I am her son. With this thought, each and every citizen must take care of this motherland. And this sukta gives a good lesson to all of us, which we must follow on this Amruta Mahotsava Varsha. Because this says that ye grama yad aranyam ya sabhaha adhibhumya ye sangrama samitayaha teshu charu ademate. It means, O motherland, will speak only upright words about you in those villages, that forest, those assemblies, those battles, those higher assemblies which are there in our country. I would like to focus on the word aranya, because rest of the things where some other people are definitely there to listen what you are speaking. But when it is aranya, when it is forest, when there is nobody to listen, there also we speak only up, we should speak only upright things. That is how it is expressed by this. So it is the responsibility of each and every citizen to speak upright things about our country, and we must respect it, because after all, if the country is there, our existence is there. And hence I consider that this Arthashastra is the best guide to make our country the prosperous country, Parama Vaibhavashali country. And for that, Arthashastra, even in modern time, will be the best guide. Dhanyavad.